Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil, for you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long.
When I went back to visit Korea for the first time, it was back in 1985, after I had graduated from high school. After touring the country with a tour program and visiting my relatives in Seoul, I finally made it down to my hometown. My aunts insisted that I make a visit to my grandparents' graves, which were located on a mountain outside the city in a family plot. After we had moved to Canada, both of my grandparents had passed away. I also had never visited a cemetery before in my life. When my aunts and I arrived at the graveside, I was stunned by what I saw. On my grandfather's gravestone, it listed a verse from a hymn which roughly translates, "After a lifelong hope of serving you, I now go to you." On my, on my grandmother's gravestone, it said, "The Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need." The words on my grandparents' gravestones seemed so appropriate. They made me realize and affirmed how much faith had meant to them. Furthermore, my visit to my grandparents' graveside stirred something within me, a burning desire to also live a life of deep faith. Of all the passages in the Bible, the 23rd Psalm remains one of the most popular and recognizable. The passage brings reassuring comfort using shepherding as a metaphor. Sheep need constant care. The shepherd must find food and water, guard against predators, and search for any lost sheep. Sheep depend entirely on the shepherd for their safety and well being. This psalm pictures God as caring for the people in just the same way. God leads us, defends us from danger, provides food and water to sustain us, and heals us by anointing with oil. The relationship of shepherd to sheep is an intimate one, as the shepherd can identify each of the sheep and call them by name. Even in the valley of the shadow of death, God, the shepherd, restores the people to renew life all the days of our lives. Then one day, God the shepherd failed me. It was during the time of Trump's presidency, with all of his tens of thousands of pathetic lies, the rise of hate crimes, his disregard for the environment, and the rise of fascism just got to me. This was before his complete and idiotic approach to the COVID-19 pandemic and before inciting a riot on the Capitol. Anyways, I simply could not take it anymore. I did not see God as a good shepherd. Rather, I resented God for putting me here on earth. The way I saw it, it was like giving people an opportunity to be on a reality show on an island. Problem is that on the island, people will cheat and lie, they will commit crimes and even kill people. They have no regard for the environment and they are on the path to destroying it. Would you go on that made for TV reality show? Most of us would say no. Most of us would say that the show is immoral and even cruel. Yet, that is the life we have on this planet, I thought. We had no choice but to be born into this reality. I resented God for this human life, which I saw as an immoral human experiment. All of this played out during my sabbatical when I had time to wrestle difficult subjects, think deep thoughts, and say long prayers. And I did not have to worry about allowing my pessimistic attitude to creep into my sermons or into my ministry. Thank God. I also recognized that I did not have an easy time with my life either. I told you before that when I was 4 years old, both my parents went overseas to get better jobs. My mother was gone for 3 years, and my father was gone for 7. I was taken care of by my grandparents, but they could not fully play parental roles. Then we came to Canada, where I struggled with learning a new language while facing culture shock and the reality of racism. Then, when I was in high school, I suffered from a stuttering problem, which made me feel isolated, withdrawn, and shy. So, I had my share of traumatic experiences, which could have ended pretty badly. When I was questioning God and God's creation of the universe and the human life here on this planet and my woeful life, I realized that my life is worth it because I had met Angie and I have had the opportunity to experience her generous love and to reciprocate that love. The experience of love made life, however cruel and unfair, worthwhile. Love in the end was what saved me from the temptation to despair. Love is also the substance of Christian faith. At the heart of it, we believe that God is love. We have seen what that love looks like in Jesus Christ, in his healing, the miracles, and honoring the people who were considered outcasts. He even gave his life away when he challenged the oppressive and corrupt systems that subjugated the people. God is the shepherd who protects us and leads us to places of restoration and renewal. For God, justice is important, especially to those who are weak and vulnerable, which is also opposite of some political systems where they prize strength, power, and money. We all have had many opportunities to experience God's love. I have been deeply blessed because I have met people in my life who love God deeply. They have been my mentors and my friends. I have experienced God through their wisdom, kindness, and generous spirits. I have also mentioned before about how when I was in Cold Lake, Alberta, there was a day when I felt like giving up on ministry altogether. Then, on that very day, 3 handwritten letters from 3 friends arrived, giving me what I needed to continue. I realized that this was God's way of looking after me. Same thing happened again recently when I felt really low. 3 different friends whom I had not spoken to in a long time phoned me out of the blue just to say hello. And we were able to chat for about 1 hour each. Once again, God the shepherd found a way to reach out to me through my friends. It was God's way of showing compassion and God's way of helping me to go through the valley of the shadow of death. We also experience God through the inner voice of wisdom and love. This happens by simply listening to the small, still voice that tells me what to say in moments of truth. This voice is what I rely on when I write my sermons and prayers. Socrates has said that he does not consider himself wise, but that he listens to the small, still voice. Puccini felt that he was merely a secretary when he wrote the opera Madame Butterfly. God speaks to us, whether we realize it or not. One of the things that I worried about was the number of churches that were closing and dwindling. I was fearful about what my future might be like beyond Ebenezer. In those moments, I heard a whisper that said to me, "You need to trust God a bit more." Then, when I decided to leave, I was surprised by how easy it was. I applied to Parkwood United Church, and a week later, I received the first interview. A week later, I had my second interview. 2 weeks after that, they offered me the job. I felt as though God led me beside still waters. God's rod and staff comforted me in my time of insecurity. I now feel as though my cup runneth over. Still, I find it difficult to leave Ebenezer, even though it is the right thing for the church and for myself. But, but a voice is telling me you need to trust God a bit more. So, my friends, yes, even a humble minister such as I experienced huge doubt as I have also questioned God's design of human life here on earth. What I also learned in my philosophy class was that this is the best possible world that God has created for us. Given that God is all powerful, all good, and all knowing, the life we have here is the best. If we do not think that, then the problem rests in God. If this is not the best possible world, then either God is not powerful enough, or God is not all good, or God does not know how to create the best possible world. Since God is God, then the life we have now is the best. Or as it states in Taoist philosophy, do you think you can take over the universe and improve it? I do not believe it can be done. The universe is sacred. You cannot improve it. If you try to change it, you will ruin it. Ultimately, what my spiritual ordeal reaffirmed for me and what saved me from despair was the saving grace of love that transforms our suffering, that can heal painful wounds, that gives us the hope to journey on. God is love, and God is the one who allows us to love one another, ourselves, and our life, to make life meaningful and worthwhile for all of us as we love one another. God is indeed our shepherd. We have everything that we need. Thanks be to God.